Audio and all to get going?
We are good.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Erin Stevens. Welcome to the April 6th, 2026 meeting of the City of Charleston Design Review Board. Members of the board here tonight are Stephanie Tillerson, Bill Eubanks, Ashley Jackrell, Lucas Boyd, Ben Whitener, and myself. And members of city staff are Brad Thomas, DRB staff, Patrick Carlson, city clerk, and Rachel Four, preservation. The big one. No board members are recused from any of the agenda items, and no agenda items have been heard. We had no public letters submitted, but we will give an opportunity if anyone from the public shows up and wants to speak on a topic. The order of the meeting will be as follows. City staff will introduce each project in context. Then each applicant will have a 10-minute time limit to present their project. If you do need more than 10 minutes, just let me know ahead of time and we can extend that for you. All presenters must clearly state their name for the record. And during this presentation is when anyone affiliated with the project, designers, owners, consultants, developers should all speak in that 10-minute window. That'll be followed by questions from the board and then public comments. Then we'll move into city staff recommendations, and the applicant will have an opportunity to clarify anything that came up during staff or public comments. And then we'll move into board discussion, at which time the applicant will no longer be allowed to speak unless they are directly addressed by a board member. Then we'll have a motion, second, and a vote. Please at this time silence any devices that make noise, and just want to remind everyone that comments from the public are limited to site design and architecture only. This board does not have authority over zoning issues such as land use, density, flooding, or traffic. All right, with that, we will move to our first item on the agenda. 2274 Clements Ferry Road, requesting final approval for a new 3-story storage building.
Thank you, Erin. Right here we have a context view of the site here, just right off of Clements Ferry Road. Again, just zooming in further there. Taken directly from Clements Ferry Road, he's looking at the site here, and I will turn it over to the applicant.
Be good with 10 minutes?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yeah, whenever.
This time you gave me an extra 10 and I took it all. So.
No,
Whenever,
remember, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
whenever you want me to switch to the slides, just let me know.
Okay, I will. So yeah, thank you again, everybody. My name is Todd Lucas with Rapid Design Build. After the last DRB hearing, we had, I think it was 6 sort of comments we were asked to come back to try and clarify. Since we've already kind of been over the location of the facility, I'll jump right into it if it's all right. So one of the first comments was that simplifying the planning palette. And I think when you see that, it's on page 15, which is a landscape plan. It's small enough you can't necessarily tell exactly what happened, but there was quite a dense amount, quite a heavy amount of plants on the project. So what we've done is we've gone in and we've simplified it, spread out some of the plants, and we've actually removed 112 total plants. So it's much more simplified now. So hopefully that will meet sort of your hope and requirements on that. The next comment was regarding the tower cornices. If you could go to the rendering on page 31.
Right here.
No, there should be a 3-dimensional rendering. Here's more past these. There, that'll work. So what the comment at the time was, I think from staff, was that on these returns here on the building, they felt like they weren't deep enough. So from the ground, you could see sort of them ending short here at the edge of the wall. So we actually have gone in and extended them. I believe it's another 3 feet back into the building, so that you can't tell that this is actually more of a parapet. It looks more like the natural structure itself. All of these on the corners actually have full returns on all 4 sides. I'll go and show you that on the roof plan. If you wouldn't mind going forward a little bit further to page 48. Should be about 4 more here, 4 or 5 more. Actually, it was an interior. Oh, so, 3 more, I think. There you go. Wait, actually go one more if you would, please. Thank you. So a little smaller, but so originally this is what we had, and you can see that these, hard to see that these little dashed lines are turned right back to the edge of the wall here. This is what we had presented at last meeting. What we've done now is we've deepened that top, and instead of stopping right here at the wall, we've continued about 3 feet into the roof plane of the building. So that really the only way you'd be able to tell that that's just a return cornice is if you're up on the roof. So should help with that visibility and the feeling was we were portraying. There was a comment that was made regarding studying the cornice, which I do apologize. That was a comment from 2 ago, and we thought we kind of addressed it, but I think we have a better idea now. If you go to page 26, and this will be the elevations.
Forward and backwards.
Backwards. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, try to combine these so they don't jump around too much. Okay, go back one more. Yeah, that'll be good. So now let's see. Well, we'll stay here. So you can see that these were the before and afters, which is another comment that when we had submitted these initial drawings, actually, you can go back one more, please. These initial drawings that we hadn't shown the one right before, it was a couple before, and so we cleaned that up. That's what we presented last week. I'm sorry, jump back one more, please. Okay, there we go. So the concern was that this is the office and the main entrance to the building, and then with the thickened cornice here, that we also are matching this on this side, and it was just made it a little tougher to see where we're at. So we went ahead and we reduced this cornice down to try and take maybe some of the emphasis away from there, and kept this one, actually made it even a little thicker. So that was addressing that cornice question that there was on the building. It does wrap around both sides of the building. And then piggybacking off another comment was that, as I just mentioned, that before we'd had this drawing up here and one from a couple before down here, and so we've cleaned that up. This is what we presented at the last hearing, and this is what we're presenting today is the revised plan. So if you scroll through the next 2 or 3, you'll see that they're all comparing that. So again, nothing much has changed back here. One thing we did do is we added shadow lines on this, because the next thing I'm going to get to is there's a comment from a board member about the materials and the change in materials and understanding the change in plane to help represent that a little bit further. So there was also a question from the staff about the metal grill and trellis planning. We had the front of the building. If you could go all the way to I think it's the second to last page on the deck. All right, so this is it. So
Sorry.
yeah, that's okay. So we had just called it out as a 3-inch tube steel that was attached to the building. So this is just showing you in each one of the pop outs on the front of that building. This is actually the size of the metal sort of trellising or lattice. It's going to be there a section through it with actually it's a 2-inch gap and a 2-inch tube steel or 3x3 steel, and then a just sort of a three-dimensional elevation to get a feel for it. It's off the building slightly. The colors of it are matching the actual trim that's around all of the windows and fittings. So we provided that. And then I think the last item I wanted to address, which came in sort of a supplemental email that I think Mr. Meeks has added after the time, was a question, and this is that was kind of the big one, is understanding the plane changes, the materiality changes and things. I know that we talked about the brick and flush versus popping out on the building. And so if you could go to page backwards to 53, 54, actually go forward one if you would. I'm sorry, first to the very last slide. I'll start here. One more. So sorry. So this right here is showing, this is the brick veneer. This is an insulated metal panel that has a texture coat applied to it. The brick veneer is placed on top of it. There's a built-in channel that you adhere to it and do the veneer system. So you've got a nice transition here from where the metal panel comes down to the brick on the first floor where it pops out and provides some ins and outs on the buildings. So if you'd like to go back to roughly page 53. Let's see.
I don't have page numbers on.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay. I might have you stop. It's just you go back through. You can go back a little further. Yeah. You stop here, these are a good example. It's unfortunately a little blurry, but so this is the metal panel portion. I think if you may or may not recall that we're doing all brick all the way up the facade in different colors where the office is to continue setting that apart as well. But you can see here with your textured metal panel that you're 2 feet in on this lip here where the windows are. There's a horizontal banding between the windows and the floors. It's actually inside of that. So you've got another plane change. When you come down here, this is where that brick veneer is, and so a third plane change there. So from a flat surface standpoint, you've got 2 or 3 different plane changes within those towers. And then those towers are all set out from the building as well. So there's another plane change there. So it provides quite a bit in and out on the building itself. So you can go back another one. So you can see it similar here. You can't tell from this, but this is the edge of the tower. Look where the office is at. So right here, it actually steps in, moves on, comes back out over here. So you have those plane changes as well as these here. If you can go back a few more, please. We can go, the renderings are probably the best place to stop at. So when you get to there, we can just show it a little bit more. So if you just stop there, you can see what we're referring to here, where these are all set in now, provide that change there. You've obviously got these power components that are popped out from the building. You've got right here is where your brick transition is coming down, so flat face to a transition there. So, and this continues around the entire building. You can see here and here. So we've got quite a few plane changes all on all 4 sides of the building, trying to address that sort of, give you more shadow lines, a little more interest to the project. So that's really it in a nutshell. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer. How long was I?
You were like 9.5. So just in
Perfect.
time.
That was close.
All right, questions from the board?
Yes. Will you just clarify? So there was a comment about reducing the plant palette, but from what I heard you say, simplify the plant palette. But from what I heard you said, you reduced the amount of plant material, not simplified the plant palette. Is that correct?
Well, we reduced the number of plantings, but we also took entire groupings of plantings out. So there's fewer variations of the plants. So we have, I'd have to go back through, I think so we had, we removed 43 eastern cornflowers, 67 increasing, I don't know how to say it, pillow, and 26 dwarf, Bacchate, sorry, I don't know. Those was, and then we increased to make up some of the gaps. We increased some of the existing ones that were already on the pallet. So we've reduced that. I think there's 4 or 5 total plants that have been removed overall.
And how many plants were removed? What's your decrease in quantity?
112.
112.
Mhm.
Less plants now.
Less plants, and then we've spread them out a little bit more, provided more growth area, which was a comment from one before that.
How many are remaining?
Oh, I have to go count them.
No,
It's quite a few. I don't think you can see a total one here. I would say there's probably a couple, 250 or so remaining.
Yeah, that's a big reduction.
It was a substantial pallet at one point.
Any other questions from the board?
All right, thank you, everybody.
Is anyone here from the public to speak on this? Okay. Let's move to city staff recommendations.
Yeah, Aaron. Staff's observations for this project is that the board asked to see this project again for to review some details of the building. The previous staff and board comments have been addressed as seen in the applicant responses. Staff comments are, please look over the staff standard comments found on the DRB webpage and address all that apply to your project. For example, this would include all traffic signposts are to be either a decorative wood or metal post, painted black. This needs to be revised on the permit set drawings. Staff's recommendation is final approval with staff and board comments.
Thank you. Anything you want to clarify or respond to? Okay.
I think the only thing I'd say is, I think you're aware that, so we came in fairly late on this and I think that Mr. Meeks had said you all understood that this isn't a construction set of drawings yet, and so this is still, that's the only thing. So we've got to get the construction set done still.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, board discussion and a motion.
I just want to applaud where this project started to where it is now. I feel like this is what we're here for,
Yes.
you know? And, you know, it might not be something that, you know, I feel like I could or would have put this forward to the board or design, but it achieves what we had all discussed and yeah, I mean, it still has a thin brick. I'm not a fan of thin brick, but you did you executed the detailing and with the undulations and the ins and outs and where the metal panel hits the thin brick, it's detailed in a way that you won't see that thin brick expression. And you know, I appreciate that. There aren't places that are coplanar with changing materials. I appreciate that. I appreciate the hierarchy. Yeah.
That's a good question.
No,
Could I have a question?
Yes.
So there's been some relief, the material change with the plane change. It was more than I personally was anticipating, especially with the windows. Now with the ganged window, can you go to a rendering?
Mhm.
With the ganged windows in the spandrel, it's very atypical to have a spandrel below a window. And not a window usually defines the opening, right? And so now we have window, spandrel, and then the opaque brick base. Given the construction of this, would that, and I saw the wall section and the axle, that's very helpful. But given the construction of this, that bottom spandrel here, architecturally, this should not be recessed, this part right here. That should be white. And so it'd be a two ganged punched opening in that volume. But I know this is a very particular type of construction and I'm wondering if that is any,
So you're looking to have this fully defined as a squared out, okay?
does that create any
No.
severe challenges?
No, not at all. I mean, we would just come with the same plane with this piece here. We had just set this back, so when you come down here, you have an even bigger transition to the brick there, but we can certainly do that.
It's gonna be a big deal.
Well, it's not being used.
Yeah, not for anything.
Yeah.
I think it's fine either way.
Yeah, spandrel at bottom, real. I also think thin brick as a spandrel material is very awkward.
Yeah, I do.
Spandrel material is usually lighter than the primary material.
I wish it was spandrel glass. That'd look even better. But
That would be
We can
my
keep
only,
going.
that would be the only board comment I'd put forth is completing that opening in the.
continuing the brick on one side and the metal panel on, so that's brick, so brick. This continuing over and then the metal panel continuing over.
Yes.
On that side. I'm fine with that. Any comments? Make a motion.
Bill, well, looks like you're, I have to move on, but I was what else.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just
Kate.
gonna say that I think that the previous board comment was misinterpreted. But that's what I wanted, because it was your comment, I remember, and I agreed with it, but I didn't want to assume that I was gonna let you explain that, but typically when we say we want the plant palette to be simplified, it's not reducing the quantity of plants. I think if we were gonna go in either direction, we would have asked to increase the quantity of plants. It's reducing the number of species there so that it's a little more intentional, and for something of this scale, instead of having like a fussy landscape with a lot of different species, it was more like making a cohesive landscape approach with fewer types of materials, but not less materials. And when we hear that a significant number of plants were lost, to me, that I haven't looked at them side by side, looked at every number to see, but to me, I don't think that addresses the board comment. I actually think that does the opposite of what we were trying to do, but Bill, I don't know.
No, I completely, I couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, it was misunderstood, and I think that actually took things backwards
I agree.
from a planting standpoint. Reducing over 100 plants over this project is not acceptable to me.
So simplify the palette, but keep the number the same.
Yeah,
So would you say that's grounds to see it back for final, or is that something that staff?
I would trust staff to.
I would trust
to
staff at
manage
final.
it, as long as we make it a clear comment.
All right, I'll make a motion for final approval with staff comment one. Board comments to keep the same number of landscape. Is that right?
I would just say that the quantity of planting should be consistent with the previous.
So they're asking for final approval. But we're asking for it to come back to staff again.
Mhm.
So we're not giving final approval.
Okay, I feel like it'll have to go back to staff anyway because of like the signposts and other things. in
It's
their
preliminary
comments.
approval really with
So I think
to
we
staff.
maybe
Okay.
defer final approval, but final approval by staff.
Just
I feel like the landscape plan could be something that we just review in the permit drawings for when they submit for a permit.
Or this would all be reviewed.
Well,
Because the architectural change too, we haven't gotten to yet.
Okay, I trust y'all.
And then the other board comment is to, I don't know what you want to say about that,
Eliminate the bottom
remove the bottom spandrel, continue the same material, the adjacent material to infill.
So we have are we figuring it, a motion for final approval with staff comment number one and board comments to keep the quantity of plantings consistent with the previous version of the plan and to eliminate the bottom spandrel and continue the adjacent material under not all windows, but.
So can we just clarify, same quantity of plants, less plant species?
Sure.
Right.
Is there a second? Yes, is there a second?
Second,
Okay. I will call roll. Stephanie? Yes. Ashley? Yes. Lucas?
Yes.
And I'm also in favor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Item number 2 on the agenda is West Ashley Circle, across from Floyd Drive, requesting conceptual approval for a new one-story shell building for retail/restaurant.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Okay, again, just a broad context view of the site. You can see West Ashley Circle there off of McConnell. The site outlined in orange here. And then some streetscapes. And then I'm turning it over to the applicant.
Do you think you'll need more than 10 minutes or?
Just to be safe, if you don't mind extending the time.
Okay, we give you 15? Good.
Bosses can take a
All right, great. Let's go.
All right. Thank you guys for your time. I'm Preston Ackerman. I'm with Kimley Horn, presenting on behalf of Encore Real Estate, for the wedge. So if you can flip to page 5, please. Yeah, so this is the master plan site. What we're seeking approval from DRB today would be the first building on this site. And this area that's sort of outlined and highlighted with the pavement would be the area that we're developing up front, along with the detention ponds. And then everything else will be coming in behind that. So there'd be utilities and stormwater network and things like that developed as well. If you can go to page 7, please. Actually, if you could just go to page 10. Here we go. You can see got the building here. We have 2 quick serve restaurant tenants on either end, and then a tenant to be determined in the middle with drive-through lanes, access to the site. Either side here, lining up with the existing driveways. This is Floyd Drive here. This is West Ashley Circle here. And then we work with staff to have a build to line to give it a more urban feel. So we're 10 feet off the right of way to the building here. And then we plan on having patio seating out here, and then a walking garden through here to activate the space to meet the original zoning, which is the gathering place. And so we want to make sure, you know, we're drawing people in. We do have this tree here that we're trying to save, working with Eric Schultz and city staff to save this tree. It's a nice looking tree. It's a little up from the roadway, so we have to do some things with the grading and kind of bow around it. So we make sure we're not impacting it. Yeah, I think that gives you most of the civil context. Mr. Tomasi, you wanna?
Hey, good evening. Lossy Knight with Elevate Architects. Whoa. Brad, if we can go to page 15, I'll touch a little bit on site context. Okay, this is good here. So our site has about 312 feet of frontage along West Ashley Circle, and really most of what's around us right now is sort of wooded. We've got this big utility easement, power easement that comes through sort of to the east side. And then we can go to the next slide, please. So then directly across the street, we're sort of aligned with Floyd Drive. We've got the new Chick-fil-A, and then just south of us here, we've got the Walmart Supercenter, which happens behind us. And then there's a future little mixed-use retail development right here at 3955 West Ashley Circle, which looks like there's 2 or 3 smaller buildings. They'll show up on the next image. If we can go to the next slide, please. All right, just a little bit on the context of Chick-fil-A and car wash on Floyd Drive. Next slide, please. And this is that 3955 retail center that's going across the street but hadn't been built yet. So a lot of this existing context does include a lot of brick parts, some of the language, and some simple slope roof lines on some of the newer buildings. Next slide. And then right now, there's nothing else built around us. So our streetscape is just a simple 31.5-inch roof ridge. We wanted the building to feel like it was 3 individual tenants and not just one big strip center. So I wanted to break the massing up. Let's see here. If we can go ahead and jump to floor plan, which is page 21, please. Yeah, so floor plan wise, we've got 3 tenants, and we're actually just designing the shell building. So we anticipate Chipotle and Panda to come in and interior upfit this for their needs. That having been said, we want to be thoughtful in making sure that we can plan ahead and make sure that things like mechanical units and all that kind of stuff is going to be screened at the rooftop level. But we're not actually designing the actual interior floor plans here. The building is sprinkled, so we have a riser room, which is common and access from the back here. We've got 2 plazas, one to the east here, which is defined by these planters, and then one at the entry drive, which is actually defined by a vertical steel picket fence right there, just to give a little bit of security from traffic. And then you can see we have gracious sidewalks. So in some cases, we're anywhere from 20 to 25 feet along the front out the West Ashley Circle, and then 10 to 14 feet along the back. So next slide, please. Just a quick snapshot of the roof plan. Again, we're not really designing the mechanical units right now, but I think you'll see on all the 3D and the building sections that all these roof masses and parapets are high enough to conceal these future mechanical units and grease exhaust ducts in the future. So if we can skip to the renderings, which is page 23. Yep. So again, we're sort of the first building here, and this will be the broader context which will be filled out. We anticipate there will be an Aldi at some point as the anchor tenant, but we don't really have any designs or anything for that at this point. Next slide, please. All right, just a closer bird's eye here, sort of to the east, and you can start to see these really large, gracious sidewalks along West Ashley Circle. And we really wanted to try to articulate this facade and try to let this, make sure the center tenant didn't really get lost in the mix, kind of bookended between these guys. So it starts to sort of nose out. It actually has the most storefront out of any of the tenants. Next slide, please. Got the view west with our secondary outdoor eating area. This is that planting garden and gravel walkway that Preston mentioned. We have a screen wall that separates us, or separates the street from the drive-through. Next slide, please. All right, they just want to kind of show the drive-through sort of tucked around the side next to the screen space. And in the back, we have another sort of recessed entry for the central tenant. All right, next slide should be the streetscape. So this is how we would experience it from West Ashley Circle. That's an entry drive. We felt like sort of this gable form gave a little bit more scale to the building and was a good way to kind of anchor that corner tenant in the main entry into the future development. Next slide. So this is just our front facade with the 3 tenants from West Ashley Circle. Next slide, please. And then again, looking west from tenant number 3. So these outdoor plazas are defined by wide flange steel columns. We wanted to think about these porches as being a little bit more significant, given that in the background, there's going to be these larger anchors at some point. So we wanted these porches to feel somewhat significant rather than just being stick built. And then we can keep going. Next slide, please. All right, so this is from the parking lot side, looking. Yeah, there you go. Oh, sorry. That's okay. Yeah, the next slide's fine too. So sort of a view more to the east along the facade at West Ashley Circle, and you sort of see the 3 tenants and the central tenant kind of punching its way out. We do have some corner glass elements. Next slide, please. All right, so this is again our entry drive. I'll get through this 1 or 2 more. All right, so then a view from the parking lot. We do have a little bit of a larger porch element for that central tenant here, and then these secondary canopies for the end units. Next slide. And then just to wrap up with the materials palette. So we've got this cottonwood brick, which really sort of anchors the facade, kind of a warmer palette accented with synthetic and real wood species. And then lap fiber cement and standing seam metal roof. So I think this palette's fairly consistent with the other context around the area that's coming up. So happy to field any questions.
Didn't need extra time after all.
Let's try and squeeze it in.
We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, questions from the board?
Quick one, and I know the answer, but is that since there's already tenants on board, are there standards or anything dictating any portion of the exterior design, or is it blank slate as far as you're concerned?
Actually, it's a blank slate. We received an elevation to start with. It was nothing but a parapet roof.
Yeah.
We sort of wanted to start over.
But they're not saying you have to use the cottonwood brick or.
No, they're not saying any of that. No. Now, I would like to mention that we pushed back a little bit to try to create these primary entries from the front and the back, so we can have that engagement from West Ashley Circle. So we had to kind of push a little bit to kind of get through their kitchens and make some connections from West Ashley Circle and have 2 primary entries.
Couple questions, Rosie. First one, yes, if you go to page 33. Right there. So if you look at the Chipotle roof, the roof overhang, I guess the side that's over the title, the unknown retail, it's cut back because it's so close to that low roof, right? That's the only reason. Yeah, okay.
I'm sure that's come up.
Yes, I think. And another question, I was just curious, if you look at your plan, I mean, it's pretty simple, plan division of the 3 retail spaces. You don't have to go back to it. I mean, I know where it is, but just curious, Chipotle has a very clear plan to elevation to form. This is the roof form over that section of retail space in the plan. So does Title. Title is you've kind of slipped it between the other 2. So it's got a clear expression of the floor plan to the elevations to the form. But then if you look at Panda, it's got really two different forms. And it almost looks like an L. It's got a flat roof and then goes to title. I was just curious what your thoughts were on why that sort of the gable is turned on that side. It didn't go the whole way, or if you used a different roof form, or just curious.
Brad, are we able to back up a few slides here? Maybe one or two more. Let's see if we get other. Yeah, one more slide. Yeah, there we go. So we explored a larger gable to try to cover this whole end unit, this end cap. Coming down West Ashley or West Ashley Circle, we were trying just to give the building a little bit different language and identity from every direction approaching the site. So we did at one point have a uniform front to back gable that was essentially just matching that. The one that's on Chipotle now. And then we just ended up with sort of a hyphen element and a parapet and just sort of scaling this to be sort of smaller masses. It was ended up being a little bit larger than we wanted it to look. And really, I can make up something else, but I'm not. It was.
That's right. Yeah. I was just curious. Your recommendation. I just wanted to hear. The other two forms seems, like thought it real super well thought out.
Yeah.
The other question I
I'm
had.
showing you different versions of it, but this is the.
No, it's all good. It's all good. The other question I had, you've got this wood look panel above the storefront.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have the canopies are hitting the wood element, like on page 31, and then sometimes they're above on the soldier. And I was just wondering, is that wood look material doing anything for you within the storefront, or could that easily be spandrel glass? I'm just curious. It seems like, if you're separating that look, that wood look could stay with the centerpiece and something else could be on the sides. Just curious.
Yeah, it could very easily go to spandrel glass. This was a topic of debate in the office, and we kept talking about how would we actually achieve that? And the thought was the storefront would hit, and then we would add some trim to sort of finish this out. So the assemblies really haven't been completely resolved there. But it could easily go to just spandrel glass. I think in our sections, we end up with, we got a 10-foot bearing on these window heads, and we want to leave a little bit of room in case they do want to drop some ceilings that have mechanical ductwork. So we probably couldn't make it glass, but we could make it an infill spandrel panel that was consistent with the storefront system if we needed to.
That's all I have.
That's my question. You put back to I guess there's a landscape rundown. Just.
Before.
Yeah, I think it's before the architectural plan.
Maybe number 11. That has
I think
landscape.
it has different page numbers.
Oh, it's 11. Yeah, the next one.
There we
go.
Yeah, so, I know that this project is being built in phases and we're only approving some of the phases of the overall plan. And your first graphic, your site plan, was really helpful in seeing that. But the question I have that I want to make sure we understand is, because your site plan doesn't include that garden and the walkway and all, is that part of this phase or is that part of a different phase? Like all of this that's shown in this landscape rendering, would that be built with this phase or is that a future phase tying into the overall plan, or
So
is there a reason it's not on your site plan? I guess is my question.
all of this is, I guess, up to the curb line here and then up to the curb line up top
Okay,
is going to be built with this phase.
okay.
So the landscaping would be included.
Okay.
Site plan would get pretty cluttered if we included all landscaping that.
Well, I was just thinking even the
So-
pathway doesn't show up.
Sure,
on the site
yeah,
plan,
yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't left off for a reason.
No,
Okay, thank you. That's my question. Any other questions from the board?
So you already have your approval for the tree removals that you need.
from BZA.
That's not an effort to save a C, but that's not our purview.
It's not what.
Our purview.
He's keeping Eric happy.
But
Starts a lot.
can I ask a
To save
quick
a
question?
C, a grade C tree.
Where you have dumpster enclosure, you have like 4 or so, what are the other, those are not all dumpsters, are they? Where's this dumpster
Looking
enclosure?
at 3 dumpsters and 2 grease receptors.
So is there like so you have landscape, you have evergreen on one side, and what's the other side, just some sort of a gate or a fence?
We actually have an enlargement, it could help with that, kind of late in the set, I think there should be a plan enlargement in that area. So those are just gates.
They're just
Parking
gates?
Side, yeah.
Is there structure, there's structure on, it's a structured enclosure, right? Not just landscape?
Yeah, it's a slat wall.
Just want to make
enclosure,
sure.
yeah. Might be 1 or 2 more back.
Yeah, one side is landscape, and the other side is the structure, you guys have enclosure the entire side.
Yeah, here we go, right here, so.
Oh,
Yeah, there'd be
wait, we're
landscaping
saying two
on
different
3.
things. Is the whole thing have a structure all the way around it?
Yeah.
Landscape in front of it. It has a structure too.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, okay.
So it's a,
Great.
it's all fenced.
It's
and
all
there's-
fence and then
Right.
great, yeah, landscape, okay.
So that C grade tree that Eric's making you save, what's the species? I can't remember.
A white oak.
It's what?
A white oak.
Okay.
It actually is a nice looking tree. I mean, it's not an arborist, but
And then, I'm sorry, I have one other question I forgot to ask. On your furnishings page, and I know that this is, we're still at conceptual, but just want to understand. In your furnishings page, you have like those tree ring benches. Are those going around the ones on that walkway? I didn't see where they were called out in the site. I'm just trying to understand.
The candy trees within the space or ornamental, we're still working on the species, but those will be evergreen sitting areas within the space itself that'll have some shade cover.
And that's within that like pollinator walkway. Okay, great, okay. Any other questions? No? Is there anyone here from the public to speak on this? Okay. Back to the staff recommendations.
Alrighty, so staff has had more than one meeting with the applicants regarding this project. This development of 3 retail spaces in one building is the first phase of the larger site. As a 1-story retail building, the height, scale, and mass is appropriate for the area and site, and staff supports the design direction of this project. The applicants appear to be providing adequate screening of the roof mechanical, and staff likes the added planters for a separation from the street where there is not enough room for a planting bed at grade. The applicant has BZA approval for tree removals. Staff comments include the site plan and landscape plan should match. The site plan does not show the sidewalk going east from the outdoor seating. Also show all accent planters, bike racks, and railings on the site plan. The site plan should label all site elements not in the key plan. Our second comment is staff recommends moving the proposed knee wall away from the drive-through lane curb about a foot or 2 so that the car overhang cannot hit the wall if a car were to turn towards the wall or simply just move the curb. Third comment, the knee wall proposed between the outdoor seating and the drive-through is shown as 2 feet 9 inches tall. Staff recommends increasing the height of the wall at the patio to 5 feet tall so that when customers are seated on the patio, they do not see the cars in line for the service window. The wall could drop down in height beyond the patio going east. Fourth comment is to note to paint the utilities and conduit on the building the same color as the facade where they are located so that they will disappear. Number 5, signage will be a separate review. Facade signs are only permitted on a facade where there is a public entrance or if the facade is facing a main street. Thus, the facade sign at the Panda drive-through will need to be removed. And our 6th and final comment is staff appreciates the sidewalk on the east side that leads away from the WAC and goes towards the trash enclosure. Staff will want to see this path continued into the site for connectivity once this next phase comes. Provide a crosswalk if this is the intended path to take out the trash. And staff recommendation is conceptual approval with staff and board comments.
Thank you. Anything you want to respond to from staff comments? Great. Board discussion and a motion.
I think I'm a little torn. It's I don't wanna belittle the building or anything, but to piggyback on what what Ben was getting at, I think it is a pretty small building. And you're cramming a lot of architecture into a pretty small building. And my initial thoughts was more material and facade device that were just too much. There was a few too many materials, there was the brackets and the corner glass and the wood spent, just a few too many architectural motifs for the facades. And that wouldn't necessarily be a conceptual review thing, right? Height scale and massing. I am getting a little hung up on what Ben was talking about, is this disconnect between what the building wants to have as a roof line, for lack of a better phrase. And it really is that panda side that's the holdup I'm having. So curious to hear what the rest of the board thinks.
No, that's the same thing I saw, is that I feel like the Chipotle and then the, what do you call it, title, it's a clear translation from plan to elevation to form, but it breaks down at Panda.
And he talked about the opening concept of
Yeah.
wanting the three identities to the three tenants. Makes perfect
Total
sense.
sense.
Your plan infers that, but then there's just
But you can do that with different, I mean, it could just be a taller parapet there for, for say on the Panda side, or it could be a different roof line. It could be,
well, we don't.
whatever. I mean, it just needs a little bit more study, I would think. I think the Chipotle side is fine, but I would raise it higher. So you don't have two different overhangs just because it's a collision of the title.
I would encourage the
Either taller or change the form or study it, right?
but generally speaking, it's not a big building. I don't think it needs many devices to do what you're going for.
Absolutely. I don't think the wood above the glass does anything for you in the storefront. I think the wood look works fine on title and, your brick and other materials for Chipotle and Panda. It's just 2 or 3 materials, I think is fine, but Lucas is right, that would come later, materiality. The only thing that I was hung up was that the Panda side, where it's got the gable that's turned and
So knowing that, can we?
I wish, honestly, I kind of wish we would have gone even further, more contemporary with where it is, being right across the street from that Chick-fil-A. I feel like that was kind of the discussion we had with the Chick-fil-A team when they were here. It's like, this is your opportunity to push the envelope.
Yep.
And, certainly love to see that too. I don't know, I mean, bracket to me could go away and they don't hurt my feelings because I know they're not really needed. It's just an architectural, addition. But leave that up to you.
And to be fair, I think this design is much further along than the initial draft that we got from the Chick-fil-A folks.
Oh, yeah.
Credit where credit is due.
Yeah, theirs was a prototype.
That's the trouble, because we're, along with conceptual remarks, we're making preliminary and
Yeah.
final remarks, but we're seeing it, right? So.
Yeah.
Well, they
and-
provided the information, so it's kind of hard not to comment.
I think it's still conceptual approval.
Okay.
I feel like Lossy will know how to take our comments.
They'll help him at preliminary.
He's done this enough. He knows what he's doing.
I do really quickly before we get into voting, want to look at staff comments 2 and 3 about that wall. I wanted to look at that and discuss a little bit.
So
5 foot thing?
If you can go to the site plan, the 5 foot and comment 2.
I think 5 foot's too high.
I do too.
So I don't know if you noticed me pulling out my little tape measure, but
He always carries a tape.
I do always carry a tape measure.
That's awesome.
It's got inches on one side and pre-caliper on the other. So,
Awesome.
I think 5 foot's.
so
too high.
that's 5 feet. And I think that would actually not feel very friendly, but
I was
48 is almost too short.
I was actually
4
looking-
foot 6.
Oh, okay. I was actually looking at you and I was like, maybe the height of the, the wall behind you.
Yeah, so
is lower than
that's
that,
4'6".
Are we kind of, should we be dictating a number?
Well, it's in staff comments. If we're gonna
Yeah,
accept the
staff said
staff
5
comment,
feet.
they say
Yeah.
5 feet.
If we're not accepting, that's why I wanted to talk about.
I would
the
say
staff.
I would even staff's dictating a number.
They're not dictating it, they're just saying we recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can say higher, 2'9" seems low.
2'9" is low.
And
But I think 5 seems high, but maybe we don't say a number.
It seems high to me.
Oh, let's just say restudy.
Yeah,
Okay,
restudy the height.
Restudy height.
And then, as far as the location of it, because I know that staff's comment was to move it away from the drive-through lane curb, which I understand for, you know, cars wrecking into it. It's called out as 25 feet. Is that a setback that has to be followed for the wall height, or is that?
The 25 feet is the driveways or drive-through setback.
Could the wall come closer though?
You can come closer.
Just not the driveway itself. Okay. I didn't know if that wall was dictated by the 25 feet since you had it called out. So we could feasibly bring the wall slightly off of the curb by a few feet and if we wanted to.
And that goes along with their comment, right?
I just wanted to make sure that
They can't.
they weren't right, that they didn't have that setback labeled because of some TRC requirement or something. So, okay.
Does it wind up impacting the patio?
I mean, slightly, but I guess it would slightly encroach into there. I don't know the dimensions. I think it would be worth it to get it off of the curb. I don't know. How do you feel, Bill?
I think they could increase the patio, moving a little bit eastward with it, since they're gonna reduce the dimension the other direction and still have as much capacity.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think for the number 3, we can just have our own comment and say, maybe restudy it to provide more of a sense of enclosure so that it would feel taller, but we don't have to say the height that it would be. Okay. Great. Okay.
Make a motion for conceptual approval.
So can I quickly recommend before you make your motion?
You
As part of your motion, that just,
add whatever you'd like.
no, just because this is a conceptual review, it's height, scale and mass. And the roof that we're looking at is technically height, scale and mass, the roof that we're, I guess, taking issue with. But we want to keep the project moving. Can we, in the motion, put the language that it roof?
I was gonna say study the matching of the panda side.
Study the roof line of it. Okay, do whatever you want.
I mean, it's the massing of the
Yeah.
panda side,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, but you also noted the difference in the overhang on the
I wanna
Chipotle
mention
side
that. Yeah, I
too,
mentioned
so.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, so conceptual, make a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Board comment to restudy the height of the wall at the patio. And do you want to say potentially increase the size of the patio?
No, I don't think so.
Another board comment would be to study the overhangs on the Chipotle side. Is that retail A? Yeah, tenant area A. And then to restudy the massing, including the roof form on tenant C.
Restudy the massing, including the roof line. Okay. Okay. So we have a motion for conceptual approval with board comments 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. I mean, staff comments. I'm sorry, I'll start over. We have a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. And board comments to restudy the height of the wall at the patio. To study the overhangs on tenant area A, and to restudy the massing, including the roof for tenant area C. So, okay, is there a second?
Well, and simplify the elevations,
And simplify the elevations.
both in design and palette.
material palette, but that's really a preliminary thing, but.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
We'll leave it to simplify the elevations. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Stephanie,
Yes.
Ashley, yes, Lucas,
Yes.
I am also in favor. Thank you. All right. Item number 3 on our agenda. Oh, let me get in here. All right, item number 3 on our agenda is 1450 Meeting Street. Requesting conceptual approval for 2 one-story retail buildings facing Meeting Street and 1 5-story residential building behind the retail buildings. Brad, give us an introduction since we haven't seen it before.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, here's a bird's eye view of the site here. It's just showing where it is in relation to the peninsula. Get a closer view of the site. Here we have some images from Google of the site. From Meeting Street. And the cemetery that is located east of the site. Some additional images coming up. This is the restaurant depot, I believe, that is next door to the site. And then the Quinn office building as well. This is looking towards Meeting Street from the site. And this is the fire station that is located on King Street extended. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Great. Y'all need more than 10 minutes? Yeah, the first time I've seen it. Okay, great.
So the program for the proposed project is 10,000 square feet of retail split between 2 buildings and 328 residential units to the rear of the property, which you can see in this initial rendering here from the streetscape on meeting. Please. So just looking at that streetscape again, we are located along Meeting Street, like I said, in between Algonquin and Lemon Street to the south. So you can see at the bottom there the 2 proposed site sections. So the first one being along Meeting Street, you can start to see the relationship of the scale to plan or elevation left, if you will. That would be the US Foods, and then our parcel in the middle, and then Munkle Brewery to the right, I believe. And then along Lemon Street, you can see the cross section of Meeting Street there as well. Just the relationship of our 5-story apartment building, some space, the retail, proposed retail buildings, and then Meeting Street itself. You go to the next slide. So here's just a collection of precedents pulled from some local context as we started to generate some ideas for our property, because we are contending with a few different types of scales and walkability in that sense, and adding to this section of the Upper Peninsula. So that's just what this slide represents. Next slide. This is the site plan, but if you go to the next slide, we can get into the landscape. Yeah, so this is a conceptual site plan. As I mentioned, we're proposing the 2 retail buildings to front Meeting Street and address that street edge. And then we're providing a vehicular entry into that will service both the retail and the apartments to Plant East. And then we're setting our 5-story apartment building more towards the cemetery. We do have a continuous access throughout the site, so it makes up an entire city block. So you will have access from Lemon and Algonquin to the north and south sections of our property. Please. So this is a collection of representative landscape inspiration, just some notes to highlight some a relationship of textures, site walls, and organic form. These are some precedents that Remark has done in the area. Next slide. And looking again, just expounding on that inspiration. Since we do have those two retail buildings fronting meeting, we want that to be a very inviting space for future residents and visitors alike. So some notes to highlight are public art. Again, like I said, the site walls, art features, sculptures, that sort of things, just to invite some more activity to the area. Next slide, please. So getting into the inspiration for the site plan, as you all I'm sure know, the previous tenants of this property were Pepsi Cola. So some of the inspiration that we pulled from was the evolution of the Pepsi sign. And this is related particularly to the site plan itself. So looking at the bottle cap, some of that organic form, the cross section that you'll see in the conceptual image, or conceptual site plan, excuse me, on the next slide. So again, some of those organic forms, we're looking at the circulation and the relationship between retail A and retail B, and also how it relates to the multifamily building to the rear. So the idea is between these two retail parcels fronting Meeting Street, we wanted that to feel very organic and natural, similar to kind of the Pepsi swoop, if you will, of the logo. So that's what this diagram is meant to highlight. Next slide. So then getting into the conceptual site plan, again, proposing a soft edge along Meeting Street, some of those more organic site walls that would provide a buffer between the retail court for building A and B. And then we have across more axial open space, which we're providing as an axial kind of terminus to the multifamily building in the rear. So this is just very conceptual, obviously, but showing the kind of proposed plantings that we're thinking along the perimeter, excuse me, especially. That was a hard word. Next slide. And this is just kind of looking at what that landscape could look like. So the right column in particular, we're proposing a very simplified palette of natural species. Next slide, please. And then we're getting into the architecture. So we can skip through actually to the elevations if you don't mind. We do have quite a few floor plans here, but one item to note is that the termination of that open space will be the proposed amenity space for the apartment building. So there's more of a commercial kind of look and feel to the pedestrian entry into the site plan. So this is the proposed elevation for retail building A. Again, we're proposing the two retail buildings fronting Meeting Street to provide a lower scale and more approachability from the pedestrian experience off of Meeting. So here we're proposing one-story retail with a blend of more tactile materials, a balance of brick, metal panel, and stucco and storefront, with some architectural canopies to kind of link the two buildings together. Next slide, please. Again, just looking all around retail A, we can skip through to the next building. Okay, so this would be the sister retail building, if you will, to retail A. So changing up the palette a little bit, but you can start to see kind of the pull of, or the balance of the two buildings in their architectural expression. So using similar details, a similar palette, just changing the color. Next slide, please. Again, just looking all around, wanting to make each parcel and each tenant feel unique enough, but as a part of a cohesive and comprehensive project. Next slide, please. And again, now we're looking at the 5-story multifamily building in the rear. So the top image here, that's going to be your termination point to that building space, like I mentioned, off of Meeting Street. So we're proposing a 2-story volume here. That would be your more commercial look, your amenity space. Proposing a continuous brick base with a middle of fiber cement products and residential windows, and then the top being a similar balance of fiber cement material, but changing up the articulation, the windows, the trim detailing, etc. So trying to break down that mass as much as possible, knowing that it is a Next slide, please. We can cycle through these. I think the story is better told in the renderings, which are at the end of the package. Okay, yeah, so if we stop here, so this is kind of that streetscape that I was mentioning, the layering effect off of Meeting Street. We wanted to be very mindful of that scale and how we were treating the relationship between the larger one-story buildings along the front street edge to the 5-story residential building in the back. So this starts to explain kind of that relationship. An image I did want to highlight, the top right would be that open space that we're proposing between the 2 retail buildings, looking onto the residential building in the back. Next slide, please. And again, just a few more snapshots across the property, looking more interior to the site and how we're treating that open space. So you can see there's a balance of green and hardscape, natural planting. The top right image, top left image, excuse me, would be the amenity area. This is also your cross section for vehicular access. So we wanted to be mindful of how we were addressing the relationship between pedestrian activity and vehicular activity. So we will propose some, think of it more as a lunar, right? Vehicular access we would need to control in such a way that it would still be welcoming for pedestrians. I believe that is it. There's just a few more, again, vignettes off of Meeting Street to kind of show the proposed site walls and street edge.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I have one about the massing.
So you want to go first?
You mentioned a context as it relates to the decision to do 2 individual retail buildings and then have the multifamily behind. Was that the primary driving force for that decision versus, like, I know outside the immediate context, there are a lot of buildings that are hold all the way to the street and with their massing kind of straight up?
Yes, that was a discussion earlier on how to situate this site. Knowing that the retail component was going to be separate from the multifamily building, to us, it made sense to that be your introduction into the property rather than multifamily residential. We could provide a little bit more tactile, kind of tangible meat, if you will. Just gets more eyeballs. It's easier to walk around versus a 5-story building.
Thank you.
Did you consider or study the retail facing Meeting Street? I mean, Meeting Street's really a wide street there. Just curious if you looked at it as a 2-story volume rather than just a 1-story. I think it could easily be a 2-story. Honestly, I think it would help it facing the street there.
Yes, if you go, actually, if you don't mind going back 1 slide to the initial, the renderings, yes. So yes, we have looked at various iterations of this project, knowing that the scale is an issue. That's quite a big jump from what we're showing at 1 story to 5 stories. And there is context we understand of a 2-story retail
I was just wondering,
area.
was there a reason, like, is it parking or is there some-
Programming. I wouldn't
don't
say,
need more retail?
right, it's, 10,000 square feet was kind of the sweet spot for this particular project.
Couldn't do housing above it or live work housing or?
If we could park it.
office or- I don't know, just curious. Couple other questions. Let's see. The arches, I was just curious where that architectural element came from on the 1 retail building. Seemed like they were foreign from everything, even your context images. I don't remember seeing anything with an arch.
It was an aesthetic choice, full disclosure. I think trying to make each corner feel distinct enough.
And I don't remember what page it's on, but you've got I think you showed some of your context where, like, what's it called? At the Greek church, you showed that as an example. Their sort of parish hall, and then another Eddie Bello with the deep set window and then the wood look. Is there anything special about those corner elements as to why it just seemed kind of out of character with the rest of the building. That element. And then they're showing them at the corners. I'm just curious why.
Forgive me, are you speaking about,
If you look at page 22.
He's talking about the end
Yeah,
volumes.
right,
there's,
just making
there's like
sure.
there's like a recess on the elevations, Brad.
Just clarify.
Yeah, like right here.
About the retail that we're talking about.
Like right there. I was serious.
Just to provide more depth and relief
Slide
and
before.
dimension. The intention here,
How deep is it?
to, slightly less than 2 feet, I wanna say it's 18 inches.
Okay.
Wait, now I'm confused. Are we talking?
No, we're not talking about that at all. It's a slide before this one.
This
Yeah.
one?
Talking about this.
Oh, apologies, I thought you were talking about the retail as well.
I thought we were talking about.
You showed this deep recess at the, in like 4 places. I was just curious.
Oh, yes, the overframe. So that would be a true layering of 2x6 studs. So it's about a 6-inch, give or take 8 inches, just to provide more depth to make that feel.
That's only a 6-inch depth.
That's right. It's
Okay.
not,
Well, the context images are about 3 feet.
yeah,
The construction of the retail, this is just a question for materiality. I'm assuming cold form no studs for retail. And you're showing stucco,
yes.
three-part stucco. Okay. So there'll be a lot of control joints all over it.
Correct. We would need to get into the detailing, hinging on the feedback from the DRB, obviously today, on the materiality of those buildings.
I think that's retail B south, is the higher volume for mechanical. Just curious.
Yes, and also to break up the roof line. Make those parcels feel a bit more, or kind of to feel a bit more distinct.
Okay. That's it.
Other questions?
Question. The site walls, those are board formed concrete?
Correct.
So would you kind of explain the thought process on that? Because to me, I mean, I love board formed concrete in the right place, but it seems a little less refined than a lot of the materiality in the building and doesn't really relate to materiality in the building. So can you kind of explain that choice?
Would you mind cycling back to the printed site plan? Give me
Is that forward or backward in the
a
set?
backward. Well, this actually, yeah, this works. Great, this is perfect. I think that speaks more to the organic nature that we're trying to provide as the initial kind of wow, I can't do the word, impression of the site. So kind of going back to that organic form. And I'm not from Remark, so I don't want to speak for them necessarily, but in terms of materiality, that just felt like a better juxtaposition. You know, the lush landscape in this kind of raw organic form, and then you get to the more formal buildings in the rear.
But this is an urban setting, right?
Other questions?
Yeah, I got an easy one. The angled balconies, is that for a privacy issue or is it an architectural motif?
Architectural feature.
Other questions from the board? Great, thank you. Public comment?
Dana Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston, and we appreciate the chance to weigh in on this proposal. This site spans an entire city block and is a really unique context between Upper Meeting Street and the Charleston Cemetery Historic District, which is also one of the city's largest civic green spaces. So this project presents a major opportunity for activation and improved pedestrian connectivity in the Upper Peninsula. And to that end, it's really positive to see a dynamic, small-scale plaza envisioned for the entryway to the site and some park space along the east side of the property. So focusing the Preservation Society's comments on the larger scale apartment building, I'm just going to touch on two areas that we would ask this board to consider to ensure harmony of scale, proportion, and design across the entire development and with the surrounding landscape. First, the simple but rationally detailed retail buildings offer a strong reference point for the long elevations of the apartment building that rely heavily on color variation, balconies, and multiple fenestration types to break down this really large massing. More meaningful changes in depth and higher quality materials and some additional detail and more rational proportions would strengthen the relationship between the two components of the development, the retail and the apartment. And second, we would encourage studying the site plan to offer greater relief along Lemon Street and the corner of Skirvin, where the building would be immediately adjacent to the historic Brit Shalom Beth Israel Cemetery and Emmanuel AME Church Cemetery at 5 stories tall. The cemetery district is an asset to the community and to this future development, an exciting placemaking opportunity for this development. We would also say that if the project team has not already done so, we would strongly recommend engaging with representatives from both congregations of those cemeteries that are most directly adjacent, and we would be happy to help facilitate that connection. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public here? That recommendation.
All right, thank you, Karen. Staff's observations, the first thing that I have was that the demolition of the existing Pepsi building was approved by the DRB board on 12/2/2024. Staff has had more than one meeting with the applicants for this proposed project, although we had not seen the revised residential building. For the most part, staff supports the height scale mass of this project as well as the design direction. Staff is more supportive of the front retail buildings and feel that the residential building needs restudying. The applicants are over the allotted 4 stories permitted in a Upper Peninsula or UP zone. The applicants need to achieve 5 extra points via their design to allow for the 5 stories. And the applicants claim they will achieve this with the amount of outdoor public space that they will provide, which would be 2 points, as well as providing a percentage of workforce housing, which would bring, that would be 3 points, equaling 5 points. Staff is supportive of the site plan and landscape architecture. We feel it's an interesting design that creates spaces for public that will draw people in. The site furnishings and materials are nice. Staff comments, our first one is that staff recommends strengthening the top of the residential building so that there is a defined tripartite structure. For this, staff suggests more detailing, heavier coping on the parapet, or more of a contrasting color. Staff recommends elevating the materials used on the residential building. The Cormac building, which is a few blocks south of this project, was reviewed by the board several years back and was seen as a kind of a precedent-setting building for the Upper Peninsula. The Cormac should be an inspiration for future projects on the Upper Peninsula. Third comment is, given the residential building's height, scale, and mass, its prominent location on Meeting Street, and its proximity to the adjacent cemetery and nearby historic corridor district, that district is within the BAR's purview, staff recommends studying the use of brick as the primary material for all building facades, as opposed to fiber cement, to protect and improve the visual and aesthetic character of development going forward in the Upper Peninsula. Additionally, all of the previous images of buildings provided by the applicant are all or heavily in brick. Fourth comment is that staff has pointed out their concern to the applicants about the back middle wing of the residential building, foundation being approximately 25 feet from the cemetery. We had suggested that they pull this wing back further away from the cemetery lot line. The existing building to be removed sits right on the cemetery lot line. Staff feels the proposed much taller building should be more respectful to the cemetery and not be so close. On the Algonquin side of the project, where there is a large cluster of graves, the project is set back and only passive space next to the graves, which is good. As one gets further into the site from Algonquin, staff is concerned about the dog park use so close to the graves. The applicants have labeled this as landscape screen. Staff recommends that the dog park fence be taller and opaquer on the grave side. Sixth comment is that staff recommends that the entire east lot line where this project borders the cemetery have a 6 to 7 foot tall masonry brick screen wall. Seventh comment, if comment number 6 above is not adopted, staff recommends adding both a brick wall and landscape screening between the outdoor pool area and the cemetery. Regarding the one-story retail space, staff typically asks that the applicants be mindful of the rooftop mechanical units and to screen them so not to be seen from the ground, and for the residents on the lower floors of the residential building. And our final comment is that staff questions the use of the tan colored fiber cement panel number 4 as seen in the elevations. It is used in limited places and this color is not seen anywhere else on the project. So we recommend to study a different color at this location. Staff recommendation is conceptual approval with staff and board comments.
Is there anything you'd like to respond to from public or staff comments? We can move into more discussion and a motion.
I have a question for staff. What, if any, are the buffer requirements as it relates to the neighboring properties?
I am not sure on the buffering requirements if that are outlined in the zoning ordinance. It would have to be something I look up.
Okay, and I'm assuming since David made some suggestions that he would have reviewed any potential
We would have
buffers.
reviewed them. I just cannot think of, I can't think of the numbers off the top.
So
Do you-
I actually studied this site like 3 years ago. I don't
Yeah.
think there are there are no buffers, no buffer requirements.
Because of the Upper Peninsula. Can we look at a site plan though? I actually have a question. Oh,
Alright, so I'm Jake Rooney with Hoy Brainy, we're the civil. I wanna say that the adjacent property, which is the cemetery, is zoned industrial. And then that kind of sets the buffer. Use is a little unique.
Yeah.
So I think that's what drove the buffering. Mhm.
And I actually have a question for applicants too. So I should have asked this before, but I think, and I know that some of this is zoning and not our jurisdiction entirely, but I think it does inform how I feel about the edge treatment as well as the design overall. So can you clarify which of the outdoor spaces are open to the public and which are amenities for people in the building?
Yeah, so the open space would be in this area here, which would be as a part of the.
And so is the dog park in the back next to the
It would
cemetery?
not be.
It's
open.
not public.
No, ma'am.
And the pool area is not public.
No, no.
And then that other wedge shaped park that has
Here.
an inn on it. Well, the one that's between the buildings
Oh, here,
is
no,
not public.
no, ma'am.
And then what about that corner that you just pointed to?
This corner would not be public. as well.
Not public, okay.
Yeah.
Cause I know that
So it would just be this portion
Mhm.
would be public.
cause I know preservation's comment was saying that they liked having the public space next to the public asset of the cemetery. And I just wanted to make sure that for the record, that that's not public space. There's no public space along the cemetery at all. Okay. That was my question.
Any other questions?
And I have a question. So what is the open space requirement to get the points that you need for UP?
I believe it's 5,000 square feet.
I couldn't remember.
And that's all achieved in the front area.
Correct.
And the reason I bring that up, I'm done with the question.
Okay.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to kind of explain why I brought that up because well, first to clarify the point that was made, but then also, you know, if we talk about buffer and if it's truly a public space against another public space, like a cemetery, you don't really want a buffer there. You want people to be able to kind of flow through and make it continuous. But if it's private and it's not actually open to the public, then I think that changes how I feel about some of staff's comments about like increasing that, you know, buffer versus if it were all kind of a continuous open public area.
That's where they want the masonry wall too, right?
Mhm.
Steps.
And I was thinking if it was open to the public, I wouldn't want a 7-foot masonry
Right.
because you'd want it open so that people could move.
They want
But-
to around all that.
But if it's all private without public access
Yeah.
and we all see that the cemetery is a public asset, then that kind of changes, I think, how this property should address that cemetery. From a site plan perspective.
It's the kind of question, not that they shouldn't, but how much of that is this specific property owner's responsibility?
Yeah.
You know, if they wanted more of a transition, then
Right. No, I'm not saying we should make them. I'm just saying I feel differently about the design of that edge,
Yeah.
depending on if that's public space or not.
And this project becomes really, it's huge. It's a four-sided project. There is a back, but not as clear a back as
yeah.
we often see. And the front, there's this outsized attention being paid to the retail buildings at the front on Meeting Street, I should say. This year, and we saw a lot of nice renderings of them and everything. I think that's that's natural to want to look at that. Because Algonquin and Lemon aren't nearly as busy as visible as Meeting. But the reality is, with how many is it? 320. Algonquin and Lemon will be places now if they're kind of not a no man's land, but going in that direction. This building will make those places now, and I think the residential the multifamily building. I agree with a lot of staff's comments, but particularly Lemon Street, the edge that it's creating on Lemon Street, I'm struggling with a little bit, and we didn't see it as, like, the renderings are very Meeting Street retail building focused. And you can see down Algonquin in one, I think you can see down Lemon in one, but you just don't get a real good image of what that'll look like. So yeah, that would be of concern to me, those elevations. I don't know if that needs to be addressed with massing,
Yeah,
or with
massive. You can't do it without massive. You gotta have some kind of, I think Preservation Society said it good. They said, relief at Lemon 5-story, because right now it reads, it's gonna be a 5-story sheer wall, and that's a tiny street. You know,
I mean, I know.
and it's
Cormac-
never gonna get built on south of that, because it's a cemetery, so it's just a huge wall right there.
right, and you're not necessarily saying reduction in height, but
No, no.
Algonquin has a relief by way of it that.
And I'm honestly, I'm okay with that side. I think it's broken up more, right? This side is that is a very long 5-story sheer wall. In my opinion.
The second to last slide, 19, when you guys talking about, do you think that's Lemon Street? The one that's showing site elevation?
Which one?
The second to last one, it is showing site elevation. I don't know if that's Lemon Street. Second to last slide,
Be the south elevation.
go. Keep going. Right there,
That's
to the
it.
bottom right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who lives like a mile from here, I feel like there's a ton of context for buildings that are much taller. I mean, Cormac is 7 stories. So, and it's right up on the road. And I don't even have the issue with the brick as much as staff mentioned, because
Issue with the brick.
he said that they should study using
Right.
brick throughout, which I mean, in the immediate site context, there's not, and everything is more of that, cement and what do you call it?
Fiber cement?
Yeah, and then
Is there
there's also
fiber cement
the,
around there? Cause I didn't think it was.
well, I'm not the expert on materials, but I know Algonquin is not brick. And the chef store is not brick. No. But I feel like this. I don't see the need for the brick part, and I don't have issue with the height scale and massing even on that side when I think about the greater context of the other properties in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah, I don't think it was the height that what I was.
No, I think the height's perfectly fine. Honestly, that Cormac, I think's 7 stories, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
taller.
Yeah, so it's even taller.
Yeah.
It's just that one elevation is the only side that bothers me on that Lemon Street side. And
You wanna
I
see more
totally
of like
agree
a-
with Preservation Society on that
You want to see more of a step back
one.
on,
Something, or just push it further away,
Can we go back to the site plan?
further away from the road.
I feel like there's kind of a disconnect between the front and the back. Just from an urban form standpoint, I feel like the front is a very suburban approach. Both with the height, mass and scale of the buildings and with the landscape treatment. It just doesn't feel urban, and I think it should feel urban. But then the multifamily building to me is just, it's such a monolithic, huge, long, massive, uninterrupted structure. Which is still in such incredible contrast to the little bitty retail buildings in front of it. And I think it's pushing too hard on Lemon Street. I'd like to see a little bit of relief there. And it's just so flat and boxy.
I think
And it's such a long facade.
And I think that's emphasized even more by having the cemetery on 2 sides that we know will never be able to kind
Never
of
be.
balance that in a different way.
I do think it would help if the retail buildings were a little taller on facing Meeting Street. And I'm actually okay with the Meeting Street facade of the multifamily. I think, I think it breaks it up a little bit with the leasing office, that 2-story component at the front. I will disagree with Ashley. I do think, and I know this isn't a materiality discussion, but I think having brick, like staff commented, I think it would help. And it would solve a lot of the things that we're seeing as issues now. If you were just able to use brick and brick detailing and, soldier courses and stacked bonds and Rolox and things that you'll see up through that whole area of that whole industrial area of Upper Meeting Street, North Morrison, you see a lot of brick, and I drove by the other day, the Pepsi buildings are brick and metal panel, right? So, I mean, brick and metal panel, that's everywhere in that area. And I apologize if there is, but I don't know if there is an example of fiber cement anywhere in that area. And the stucco is challenging, but if you're doing it, it's going to need to be detailed right when you come back at preliminary. I do think, what else did I say? The Lemon Street, it could be as little as just moving the building off of the street some, to give a little green space there, or some undulations, setback go higher. I don't know. I don't know what zoning would allow you for that, but honestly, I'm okay with where they are in relation to the cemetery. That's why I didn't mark the staff comments for those. I think that's fine in the back area. But when it's on the street, when it's on a main street, I feel like we need to respect that street, especially there's a sidewalk. To either break down the massing somehow with relief. Encourage, yeah. And I agree with preservation. They definitely engage the congregations of the cemeteries, because they're gonna have something to say about those adjacencies.
And apologies for not asking before, but for the areas, I don't want to dwell on this, but I think especially because staff has several comments related to this, that border perimeter in the back is important. So for like that triangle area kind of at the top above the dog park, since that's not public access, is it gonna be controlled access? Will it be fenced off with gates? Like what is or is it just known that it's private? Like how, because how's that gonna address the street? Will there be a fence along the street there as well?
Currently, there's no fence proposed, so it would be open, but not open to the public.
There's a dog park.
No, I'm talking about above that big,
She's
I think
she's talking
she's
about
about
this
this,
area.
right? That whole area. So the dog park
Oh, okay.
is this smaller.
Yeah,
one.
right, right.
This whole area on the street is not open to the public.
Correct, and
but is-
we don't have this dog park. You know, it's just a space that we're proposing this dog park.
At a conceptual level, I think height scale and massing to go between the most.
I would say almost there, yeah.
I think the monotony is what's getting me on the multi-family building and the excessive use of fiber cement. It, in my opinion, is just too much. For a building that size, that's too much fiber cement. But the real feature, and to their credit in the site plan, they've taken these little itty bitty, in comparison, retail buildings and elevated them dramatically, architecturally speaking, by their positioning on the site plan. They've made this really strong public access that terminates at a kind of feature of the retail building. And I think that's really clever. They've taken these really relatively humble buildings and elevated them, which really shows in the renderings, just by way of a site plan move. That being said, and I think this is affirmed by the site plan, that even though it's much bigger, that multifamily building becomes kind of the background or fabric building to these feature capital A architecture, pieces of architecture at the front. And I think those deserve, and I'm not saying it hasn't gone through this program, but a real serious level of scrutiny, architecturally speaking, because those are really going to be punching above their weight and on this site. And I get that they're broken up into three tenants, three tenant spaces. And this is a tendency that we see quite a bit to give each tenant their own identity, which often is a slippery slope into three incoherent, because it's not in this context, slightly incompatible facades just applied times three. And I think those buildings just deserve a real outsized level of architectural rigor. That is a preliminary review comment, because height scale and massing, I think it works, much to my surprise, actually, with the single story in the.
You like the single story?
I think they've made it work by way of a clever site plan.
Yeah, I disagree, because it's so set apart from the 5-story building. It feels really low,
So
especially on
you
that
wouldn't
side
set
of Main
apart.
Street.
It's just the distance between the two.
Yeah, if it was closer, if it was like Cormac, where it's 1-story retail, but it's part of the building, it works fine. Because the volume, the mass works fine that way. But now it really, I think Bill said, it's suburban. It's a suburban solution, where it's a 1-story retail in a field.
I'm torn, because it's like, I appreciate that they took the approach of looking at the immediate site context, but I was actually surprised when I opened the plan and I saw the single story retail. I expected more massing right at the street, like some things that are maybe not immediate in proximity, but very nearby. Like I'm thinking of the refinery,
Yeah,
for example.
Yeah, and
I think it could easily be 2-story and be perfectly fine. I just don't know if they have program for it or need or want for it, but
Yeah.
you know, in terms of the street room, it needs it. That meeting street's very wide there. It could use a verticality.
I'm afraid that no matter how wonderful those two retail buildings might be, that they're being overwhelmed by the mass of what's behind them.
Well, that's where I think architecture can really help. If those two front little, a small
Yeah, they're
beautiful
tools.
pavilion can make you totally forget about a background building. That's just an architectural thing. I think the discussion, whether it's a single or two-story building, they proposed a single story.
Yeah.
Based on their program requirements and their performance and everything. And I think in this context, I think we can talk about pedestrian experience along that part of Meeting Street all day, but it's never, I don't want to say never, but it's not King Street retail. It's a very wide, very quickly moving street.
Yep.
You mentioned the refinery, walk in front of the refinery building. It's not an awesome experience. It's,
And you can't
That
take it
building
off.
is right up on the sidewalk. Yeah.
so I have a hard time comparing it to, and I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but comparing it to really dense urban fabrics, because that's not the.
It's not, but I think it wants to develop where it's more dense rather than broken down into just one-story buildings. That area does. I mean, look at what the Cormac did was awesome. By bringing the fingers right up to the street, and then you have courtyards off of those fingers coming from the building. It's kind of like what they're doing on the backside.
Well, in
It's the flip side. Honestly, the flip side of that would be really good.
I think, in a context like this, where it's a big multi-family, presumably 501 building, it's gonna be a background fabric style of facade. It's not gonna be a statement facade by actually tucking that back and giving yourself an opportunity to really do something.
For the multifamily. Yeah,
it's
I
never
agree.
gonna
I
be-
agree. Yeah, that doesn't have to be a statement building at all. I think I do agree with staff and Preservation Society that adding a lot more brick and metal panel or something different that's more contextual with that area would help you a lot. You know, maybe the big forms are brick and then the balconies are metal panel or something different. But the cementitious siding, it seems, to me, that seems very suburban and out of context with that area. But the height, scale, and mass of that background building, as Lucas says, I'm perfectly fine with. I don't have a problem on the backside. Was it number 4 from staff? I don't even have a problem with that one. I think that's fine. I would suggest talking with the congregations. The only thing I had a comment on that 5-story building was Lemon Street. I feel like that is such a massive shear wall right on the street. That either do a couple of undulations or push it forward a little bit on the site.
Offer some relief at a mass.
At a massing level, yeah, absolutely. Not reducing the size of it. I don't think that's fine. You don't have to do that, but push it off the street. And I mean, yeah, you can disagree with me, but I do think you need more mass, more scale, verticality on Meeting Street in that area. Facing, you know, right on the building. And to me, those could be beautiful buildings. I mean, those could be.
I would say that's.
Highly
If
designed.
you want to experiment, that's the place to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
They should be.
I mean, look at the office building that, who did it? Eddie did it. Eddie did the 2-story office building, right? Yeah.
What do you call those panels?
It's just, it's elegant. The Japanese. Yeah.
I agree too, because these are set back pretty far from the road too. So being
Yeah.
that far back and only 1 story, I just don't think they currently have the massive power to hold that street like it needs to be held.
Agreed.
Especially because they're set that far back from the road.
Enter architectural expression. Any comments? Oh, just quickly going through the staff. They wanted to see a tripartite distinction in the building. that I would not mandate. I would leave that up to the architects. I do think it needs a facade restudy, with the dramatic reduction of fiber cement panels. The next comment number 2 was, look at the Cormac building. That's fine. And then the third comment, was the brick comment, the one we were just talking about. But the 4 through 8, I wanted to quickly, before a motion is made, quickly run through those with the landscape people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't agree with 4 and 7, but I don't know what, well, if 6 is agreed to, then 7 would be moved, right? Right.
So they're saying either,
If
Six
six-
is-
If 6 is not adopted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Recommends adding a brick wall and landscape screen between the outdoor pool area and the cemetery.
Yeah, what's landscape think of?
Where 6 says entire east lot line, which I assume even where it jogs, is that like? is it
Yes.
zigzag to
Staff's
flow?
main concern with this is its relation to the cemetery, so that is why that comment is. there.
And there's some elegant brick walls
Yeah.
around the cemetery there. I mean, I
right.
would, you guys should, for looking for inspiration, look at those beautiful brick fences around those cemeteries. Some of them are awesome.
I know, I would almost want it, knowing now that that is all private
Private.
space, I would want to give the cemetery some enclosure
Yeah.
in that way, and I think.
Agreed.
Our thought process too was if someone was having a service out there, would they
Right.
be wanting to look on to?
The
Correct.
dog park and the
Yeah.
people in their bikinis at the pool.
And for the
Yeah.
people that are living in the, and for the people that are living in the building too, looking out. So really trying to give them privacy.
Yeah. I think there's such a look all over Charleston, and there's a lot of brick walls around cemeteries and graveyards, and
Yeah.
I think that's appropriate. It gives it that sense of enclosure. So I would prefer 6 to 7 personally. I don't know
Agreed.
How you feel, Bill?
I said the
6 is good.
Okay.
Number 8, yes, the rooftop units, but I would broaden that comment to just be, I want to call it a rethink of the retail buildings, because they are nice, but I would like to see them studied as more of an architectural statement, kind of a centerpiece or a highlight of the site. And then number 9 goes plus the fiber cement discussion.
What y'all think about number 5?
Which one's 5? Park cyclist. I mean, I think by adding that brick wall would help a lot to separate the dog park from the graves. They just right now throw a landscape screen there.
So,
Is that what you're
so
asking?
that would go away if we said yes to 6, right? Or no?
That's all I would.
No, it would,
Dog park needs a cliff. There's a
No, because that's the north side.
dog park fence be taller and opaque on the grave side, but I would want, I mean,
So would the brick not continue along?
I would want it to be consistent
That's what I-
along the whole east side.
So we want to say east and portion of
north.
north.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying, the whole part that zigzags, like that
Yeah.
would all need to be.
Let's
mean,
do that. Let's rewrite their 6 then.
You wouldn't want it to just terminate up there and then not.
And then have a
Yeah,
gap.
return,
and then- Yeah.
All right, I got it. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not okay with the 1-story massing. Is that, do we still want to give conceptual approval?
I would,
And say study the massing. Study the massing of the retail. Y'all agree with that?
and
Yeah, and design,
Mhm.
architectural rigor of the,
I definitely
Retail.
think it's a conceptual.
yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's do
All right, so we have a motion.
motion for conceptual approval with staff comments. Let's see, 2, 3. 8, 9,
6.
we're gonna rewrite
Okay.
6. the board comment, I guess, since we're rewriting it, would say,
So we want
the
to
entire east
make
and
it
north,
board comment separately.
Yeah, board
then.
comment.
Okay.
to follow the east-north zigzag property boundary off the street. I would just,
Even boundary.
Yeah,
it's not just east, though, it's east and north, I guess. is what
yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
I
say.
think it's the eastern boundary.
To have
a continuous masonry wall along the eastern boundary of the site. Would that go all the way down to
I would think it follows all the way.
all the way to
They
Lemon?
want they want to cover
Yeah.
the pool, right? So it should go,
So it would basically connect Algonquin to Lemon,
right?
to continue.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're gonna do that without pulling the building back off Lemon a little bit.
It just, I mean, it needs to be said, they could,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, so why don't we say? So you follow the recommendation for a 6 to 7 foot masonry screen wall
Yes.
along the eastern boundary of the property from Algonquin to Lemon Street.
I'm okay with just saying 6.
What?
6
Height.
foot, not 7.
Oh, well, I'm sure that's what they'll propose, but I think we let them make that decision.
Does it need to be continuous all the way to Lemon, or could it
Just the
stop
pool,
there and then the pool could,
right here, right?
right, well,
Will be separate.
that's what I'm saying, is like, maybe you could do something here
Yeah.
and end it here, so you don't have another wall going all the way down.
Yeah.
But I thought if you're trying to create privacy for the cemetery, you almost need that wall.
That was,
There would
To-
be a wall here.
There is a wall there right now,
So why,
but not above along the dog park.
There is an existing wall.
where we
There's
just
not one up
saying,
here.
Just a moment.
Right.
Hold on.
so we're just saying that we need it from here? If there's already a wall here?
Is it that you want
I
the
think
wall
they would, I
matching?
think it's a good idea to close it there too, because there's balconies and
Let's,
Okay.
people.
I know we're
people
kind of
outside play.
in the middle of a motion, but do you have a clarifying thing about
There's an existing wall around the entire cemetery here.
on that
On
part?
that piece of the cemetery.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then this fronts on Skirvin.
Okay,
But
thank you.
the adjacent cemetery doesn't have a wall around it.
Right,
correct.
Correct.
Seems like it would be overkill for it to come all the way
I
down.
think y'all understand that where we're saying they don't want to see, people outside on their balconies drinking when there's a funeral service going on on the
I
first
think they
floor.
were still on the first floor, okay, 'cause I'm gonna say if they're on the fifth.
Yeah, you can see it from above.
See, I'm thinking-
But if it's on the first floor corner down there, right? And somebody's having a funeral right here.
And I think with the dog park there too, that whole piece is important. I don't know, I feel like,
Instead of mandating a wall, near wall there. And it be a study adjacencies at the back of the building.
but I think we want to make clear that we want a physical separation.
Study the physical
Study
separation
of physical.
between the adjacent cemeteries.
So that's our first board comment, right? I know
Yeah.
we got derailed a little bit. Let me,
Sorry.
for clarity for everyone, I'll repeat what we have in the
Please.
motion so far and then so we have a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 2, 3, 8, and 9. And the board comment to study a physical separation between the cemetery and the eastern boundary of the property. Cemeteries. Okay.
Board comment to study the mass at Lemon Street. Board comment. Study the mass and architectural rigor direction of the retail or one-story buildings facing Meeting Street. And this is more of preliminary, but I think to study the materiality in the multifamily section and the retail section is important moving forward. Material palette.
Staff comments cover that somewhat. Number 3,
And then what?
and
the
Yeah,
preliminary review.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to be all brick, but you know, definitely study it. So I don't have to, we don't have to add
Okay.
that. They heard what I
I
said.
think, and we have it as a comment for
Yeah,
staff.
that's fine.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Unless y'all have something else for landscape.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 2, 3, 8, 9. And board comments to study a physical separation between the cemeteries and the eastern boundary of property. To study the massing along Lemon Street for the multifamily building, and to study the massing and architectural direction of the one-story buildings fronting on Meeting Street. There's a second?
I'll second.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Yes.
Lucas?
Yes.
I'm also in favor. Thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, I will move to approve the minutes for the March 2nd.
All right, is there a second? Meeting minutes?
Second.
All right, Stephanie? Lucas?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.